Welcome to Willow Glen in Motion. My name is Kevin C. Swanson, and I'll be your host. This is our second week of exploring religions in Willow Glen. Over the last 2,000 years or so, religion has been undergoing a broadening perspective of God. Instead of only a God to be feared, we see more of a God that loves. Instead of a heaven and hell, we see a variation of afterlife possibilities and chances. Instead of a God outside, we find God inside. And we as a people become more a part of God, living as God teaches, and not just worshiping Him or making sacrifices to Him. We are focusing more on how we live our lives today, and not as much on what came before or what comes after our physical existence. We've become more open, more understanding, and more accepting of others. We are finding more oneness. Today, we'll be meeting with two New Thought churches here in Willow Glen. Those churches that believe our lives are more than just the challenges predetermined by God. That as we as individuals have more control over our life experiences and our outcomes. We have the opportunity to speak with Jamie Windgassen, who's with the Second Church of Christ Scientist. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you for including our church.
So tell me a little bit about the Second Church of Christ Scientist. How long have you been in Willow Glen?
The church was originally founded and planned to meet the needs of the Willow Glen community, which started growing and expanding in the 50s. And so within the space of 4 years, this little band of Christian Scientists saved enough money to begin construction on the Willow Glen, or the 2060 Cottle Avenue location, which is where we are to this day, and opened up officially in 1956, had their first services. The reading room, which followed suit a few places prior to its present location on Lincoln Avenue, opened up in shortly at the same time, 1975 at the present location.
Okay.
So a few years. We've been around for a few. But it was very interesting in learning about the history of this. It was specifically formed to meet the needs of the Willow Glen community.
So where did your church, where was it founded? Where did it come from?
We refer to the First Church of Christ Scientists, Boston, Massachusetts, as the mother church, and that is where the headquarters are.
Jamie, what do you do for the church?
I'm a member. I am currently serving on the board, and the board is a 3-year term, so currently a Sunday school teacher. You know, that's how we do. We're a small church. We're a community church because we are located in a neighborhood. Our church was actually modeled to match the high school across the street. So if you're driving down Cottle and you're looking for a church, you may miss us.
So what is it that separates your church from other religions?
I have a special needs 9-year-old boy. And I visited a lot, and Second Church, this little enclave of dedicated Christian Scientists, saw past this handicapped boy to receive him into their nursery and then into their Sunday school without a thought. And this is the premise of Christian Science, that man's perfection is established as a child, person, adult. Children's is just the familial name of God, perfect and eternal, reflecting God's love. And this church did that so well for us that we stayed. That is part of what makes Christian Science, sets it apart, is the idea that we are made in the image and likeness of God, spiritual, perfect, and eternal. We rely solely on prayer through an understanding of our relationship with God and our inherent perfection as spiritual for healing. So whereas we totally and completely respect the medical profession, just as they have chosen to become doctors, we Christian Scientists have chosen to rely on prayer for our healing.
So you believe that prayer has the ability to to heal you, to heal ailments, to
physical, all across the board. Economic situations, wars, you name it. It's not just for our Willow Glen community, but our prayers and our services are for the world. It's global. Prayer is simply affirming what is true about God and his idea, call us man, that we are. The first chapter of Genesis states it. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. That is the premise of Christian Science, that we are made in the spiritual image and likeness of God.
Beyond our physical existence, what's after that? Is there a heaven and a hell?
Heaven and hell are not Christian Science. We learn as Christian scientists that heaven and hell are not locales, but a state of consciousness. For instance, difficulties in anybody's life can just seem so overwhelming that it becomes a hellish experience. The idea that we are made and governed and protected by God would then naturally preclude any concept of a hell, living in or going to after, moving on.
So after moving on then, we live our physical form, what happens?
Moving on, I can't answer that because I haven't, like Jesus resurrected, I haven't gone there. But I suffice it to say that moving on is growing out of the material circumstance, if you will, the mortal selfhood, and that is through study, through the Bible and our textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by our founder, Mary Baker Eddy. Through that study, lifelong study, we grow into our real selfhood.
So you do use the Bible then as
Yes.
the core?
Yeah, absolutely. Our textbook it's titled Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. So it is a correlative. It in by no way, mean, shape, or form does it replace the Bible. It is the inspired word that Mrs. Eddy received. In Sunday school, we teach the little ones. God needed Mrs. Eddy as his pen, and so it flows through her from her study. She was one of the rare birds that from childhood had the big questions about life, and the Bible.
So besides this additional book, do you have any other books that you use as spiritual guidance within your organization?
We have, it's called the Bible Lesson Sermon. It's the quarterly, and it comes out quarterly. It has various subjects per week.
So Jamie, what is the purpose of life?
Well, as a Christian Scientist, my purpose, and I would say a lot of Christian Scientists agree, is that we are here expressly to live and make practical the presence and the power and the omnipotence of God. Ours is a living relationship with God that is acknowledged and affirmed moment by moment, day by day.
Well, I'd like to thank you for our one-on-one time.
Oh, you're
And
very welcome.
I'd like to ask you to hang out for a minute, and we'll be coming back and doing a panel discussion.
All right. Well, thank you very much for including our church.